by for Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors with your host, Drew Kirby.
Hey, this is Luke Holmes.
I am Morgan Wallen.
I'm Riley Green.
I'm Travis Denning.
Hey, I'm Aaron Lewis.
Hey, it's Luke Bryan.
I'm Tim McGraw.
What's up? This is Ian Munsick.
Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors.
Welcome in to Wyoming Hookin Huntin Outdoors. Janet Millick is with us from Wyoming Game and Fish Department. Janet, it's been a fast summer. Have you been able to get out and do any fishing or scouting or anything yet?
Way to rub it in, Drew. I really like it when you point out the number of times that I've been on a boat this summer. It has been just one of those years. And as we were just talking about, I think the older we get, the faster the earth must spin. And I just can't believe that the summer is winding down as quickly as it is.
I can remember my dad talking when I was in high school saying, take in every opportunity that you can, because the next thing you know, you're in your mid-40s and, you know, death is on the doorstep, you know? And
dang it, this midlife crisis is about to happen. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. But I'll tell you that I've been able to head out with, you know, my schedule and everything. It's great because I can go out afternoons and fish or scout. And I went to Area 7 and took a buddy down that's going to hunt down there, and we found the mecca of elk.
I'm so happy for you.
70,
Can you tell me where that is?
75 to 100 elk just laying around, chilling. I mean, I could have walked up and like rubbed them on the back. We could get that close. They were so.
Well, Drew, it's because it's not October 15th.
Yeah,
I just
right.
want to remind you that they can read the calendar, and on that date, they will completely disappear, and you will hike for miles and miles and miles, and then they might wave at you from a distance, but that becomes definitely a challenge as we get closer to the season.
You know, speaking of the season, those dates you just mentioned, October the 15th, could change every year because of the way that the regulations in Wyoming change at Game and Fish. And over the last couple of years, it's been really a concerning factor for some people because prior to 2020, people were used to having those regulations in their hands, and then it all changed.
That's right. So, Drew, just as a reminder to our listeners, the Wyoming Game and Fish Department has a year-round season setting process. So we look at what regulations, the number of licenses that we're going to issue, the health of the herd, the area boundaries, everything. We're always considering what is going on in those areas. And so one of the things that is really important is that people recognize that, right? It's not something that is set in stone. And it's not something that is going to be the same from year to year. And so we have always sent out to everyone the big game, antelope, deer, and elk brochure. And so people have been used to getting that in the mail, like you mentioned, prior to COVID, those sorts of things. Here it would come with every license that you were issued, a grand book that had all of your dates, everything that you needed to know, your area boundaries. And then, as we know, this pandemic hit and these, these new words that we would learn, like supply chain, came into effect. And oddly enough, here we are in 2023, and the supply chain is still affecting us in the printing world. And so last year was pretty difficult for us to even find enough paper to print regulations. And this year we're just kind of moving forward with a lower number of regulations printed and coming up with really fun, new, inventive ways for our hunters to find the regulations online and use them and download them and have them digitally so that, it's right there and accessible for you. But we're also not forgetting about everybody who loves that big packet like I do.
So the way that the license application process now is, it's all done online. You have to do that online, and there's assistance at any game and fish office to help you do that. And that really is the same way when it comes to the regulation booklets. You can download those right to your phone and have them with you, or you can print them off yourself or come in and see you.
That's exactly right. So I want to walk through where you can get those on the website, Drew, because it can be a challenge. And I just learned about this fantastic location on our website earlier this week when the gentleman who writes our regulations, Mr. Mike Choma, came in and had a conversation with me. And I was like, oh, Mike, that's brilliant. Thank you for actually doing that. But I couldn't find it. So on our homepage, if you scroll down just midway, there's a little tiny pink bar that says view, print, or save regulation brochure. It is really great. And if you click on that, that will take you to all the active regulations in Game and Fish in a brochure format that you can view, print, or save. So it's really great. It's a wonderful way to, in my household, we have enough hunters that we only need one of those brochures. We don't need to have as many. So it's a wonderful way for us to help conserve and save money on printing and all of those fantastic things that come up. But like I said, I am still one of those people who needs to have that brochure. And we just welcome anybody who is like me to either come to the Game and Fish office in any regional office that might be around. And as a reminder, we have 8 regional offices as well as headquarters in Cheyenne that you can get these from. But the easier way is to pick up the phone and call your regional office, and we'll drop it in the mail to you and send it. So it's not a big deal. We have lots of them printed up that are just available here. We're just not mailing them out. And so we want people to know that they still need to have that. Your 2022 regulation brochure is not going to get you through this year. Particularly this year, we did have lots of changes. With the winter that we did have, several lengths of seasons were changed. Starting dates, opening day is different in many areas. And so while your place may not change, that you want to make sure that the area next to you maybe did, and you want to know, like, I don't want to be here on opening day for that season, so I want to be here when that one's closed. Whatever your reasoning might be.
The regulations, you mentioned that this is a year-round process. So the regulation meetings don't end when the license process starts. There's actually a regulations meeting that happens in September that they'll continue to be updated throughout the year. When you go to take your driver's license test, those regulations never change. The speed limit is always the same. The lane you drive in is always the same. But as we try to stress with Game and Fish, because of the way that the herds, they expand or they shrink, we have bad winters, we have good winters. It's a dry summer. These all have to change. And we don't even stop there when it comes to the regulations that you can download, because you can get the watercraft, you can get all the hunting, all of the fur bearing, trapping season kind of regulations. So it really is worth your time and energy to just spend a few minutes on the website and download all those.
It really is. And, there's a way that you can view them that you just flip through it like it's a book online. So it's not something that you have to scroll through 75 pages, down a really long web page. You get to click through the pages. It's exactly the same images and everything that you would be seeing if we printed it and sent it out to you, which again, we will absolutely do. Just give us a call and we'll get that in the mail. But it really, this as technology continues to increase, it really is a fantastic option for a lot of those folks who like to have that on them. It's a much smaller version. They always carry their phone anyway in their back pocket. And so here you go. You can have your phone, you can take your pictures, you can have your regulations, everything right there with you.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of flipping through right now. It really is a cool way to be able to do that. And you do that on your phone, and you can also just turn it sideways, and it's like reading a book on your phone where you have all those. If you have questions, we have talked with Brian Olson before how some of the bird seasons that'll be coming up here very soon. Also, those, flyaways and those regulations change every year too. So you want to make sure that you have everything under control.
Absolutely. And the great thing about this page that I just learned about that I'm referring people to is it has all of the active ones that are new right there. So you know that you're getting the most recent information. You've got the fishing regulations. It's 2023. You know, how many of us, like I said, still carry around the 2022 because it was in the glove box of the boat. But let's make sure that we're checking those and making sure that everything is there. But it's got, upcoming black bear hunting seasons. It's got all your fur bearing information, upland game bird. And, a lot of these regulations, like you mentioned with, the migratory birds are kind of through the federal agencies that manage some of those. And so we want to make sure that people are aware of all of those as well. So it's a great place to go to have wonderful resources.
I would really hate for someone to lose their animal or lose their harvest because they're out of their area or the area is not in season yet. And really just having these regulations, read them, study on them, study on your area and know is really a way that you can ensure a safe, healthy, and happy hunting season.
Absolutely. And just another reminder, something else that we did this year to maybe make it a little bit easier for folks is if you just drew an elk license, you can just download. Keep that in mind. That is available online. And we do want everybody to have a safe and successful hunting season. And if anyone has any questions at any time, don't hesitate to call. We're always here to help and can guide you in the best direction possible.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
It's Drew and Brian at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports. And Brian, you and I were just kind of going over the regulations and the season openings that are approaching here. And within a week, we're going to be so slammed of different hunting seasons that, there's no excuse to not be out in the woods or somewhere.
I don't even know what I'm going to do between bird seasons that are opening up, dove season, some archery seasons, archery elk. I mean, my gosh, we got a lot going on. Yeah,
and I'll tell you that you just got back from Texas. You were down there for a show. You got to see a lot of the future of what the outdoor world has got. And I know that you guys got here in the store just a full lineup of all the equipment that guys are going to need for all of these upcoming seasons. And now's the time to come in and get prepared.
Yeah, if the weather holds out and we got some nice weather leading up to September 1st, that dove season opens up and we've got plenty of shotgun shells to take care of those guys. Later in the month, we've got our duck seasons and goose seasons are opening up, I think, towards the end of the month. And then if you're just archery guy and you're going to just hit the field, I mean, between calls and scents and getting your bow tuned up and new sights and new rests and you name it, I mean, we're full bore right now.
We are. And talking about some of the different seasons coming in, you mentioned dove. You mentioned duck at the end of September. Turkey season starts for the bow hunters at the 1st of September, too. So
yeah, I mean, really, we were kind of looking at that Game and Fish website, and they've done a really good job with putting those brochures right on the homepage now. Mm-hmm. So it was always kind of hard to figure out when the seasons were or where to even find the brochures. But now when you go to the Game and Fish homepage, you can look at, whether it's antelope and deer or black bear or fur bearers or watercraft, or it's all of them are there. You can download them right on your phone and you can make sure that you're preparing for the right season.
So one thing that I've been doing a lot lately is slowly getting my stuff prepared for our elk hunt, which, we're not going to the back country and walking in for 6 days and then camping for a month and whatever, but we still got to be prepared. And that's what I've slowly been doing. And financially, that can hit you pretty hard if you do it all at one time. But that really is kind of the best part about Rocky Mountain Discount Sports is you can get everything you need for that pack right here.
Yeah, and you can plan it out, and if maybe we're selective on certain packs that you're looking for, and there's only one or two left. I mean, we do have a layaway program, so maybe you just need until the next paycheck hits. Throw a little bit of money on there. Let's put that pack in the back so nobody else walks away with your pack, and you pay it off when you need to. But yeah, you're right. If you try to purchase everything that you need, right? Especially as a beginning hunter. You know, you might need a pack, you might need a rangefinder, you might need some optics, you might need a new rifle scope, you might need a rifle. You know, shells haven't gone down in price, you know, so anything that you would need for sighting in, for targets, all that kind of stuff, we've got it. And so we do have some options, and especially if you're looking to kind of budget yourself out. Most things in the store we've got plenty of, but as the season rolls in, you know, some guy's going to find that ammo that he hasn't been able to find for the last 4 years, and once he sees it on our shelf, he's going to buy everything he can.
You know, we have talked about the archery season, and as I was walking in today, guys were bringing their bows in to get it tuned up. And, you know, that's kind of where we're at now with all of the archery equipment that you guys have in the store, because like you said, you've been really shipping out a bunch of the crossbows and bows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we been seeing a lot of guys just with string replacements, but just simple accessories. You know, if you haven't heard of the bow spider, you know, it's a packing system that you can basically put a clip on your bow that clips onto your backpack, so it gives your hands free. We got the trekking poles. I mean, basically now is the time to kind of just fine tune your pack and just be ready for that season to hit.
You know, so I've been thinking and planning this a little bit. You know, I have talked a couple of times about how your neighbor one time was walking up and down the stairs with his pack on. Right. I've done that a couple of times because hunting in the Midwest where I'm from and hunting out here is different. Terrain is different. What you're carrying is a little bit different. And to walk around with your pack on, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, then throw a rifle on top of that. You know, I mean, you got an extra 6, 8, 10 pounds, whatever it is you're carrying. I mean, it adds up, and it's not, you know, typically stuff that we're doing every day, you know, throughout the year. So to get into a little bit of shape, a little cardio, doesn't hurt anybody.
One thing we need to bring up and mention is if last year you bought your duck stamps and your licenses and everything, you've got to re-up that because it goes for just a year to that.
Yeah, duck stamps are one of those ones that's really kind of goofy because I believe they're only good till like June 30th. So if you had you might have got one that got you through the February goose and duck season, or maybe even I guess you don't need a duck stamp for pheasants, but through those seasons, and then it expires in June, middle of summer. Who thinks about it? Right. Well, we just got duck stamps back in. Our price is the same as the post office. I think they're $25 for a duck stamp. Come in, get one, put it in your wallet, affix it to your license, and then forget about it. You don't have to worry about it again until next June, but it's not something that gets purchased like a license, like through the Game and Fish terminals or portal. So make sure that you've got that duck stamp. I think you can order them online, but you know, it's just as easy to stop in here, grab that physical stamp, and attach it right to your license.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you're taking your side-by-side out, you got to have the ORV stickers, you got to have the state passes, and all of that, too, that you can get right here at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports when you're coming in and getting all the supplies. And, you know, if you are one of those guys that, you know, hike into the backcountry, I mean, camping gear and lightweight camping gear is really a good idea, and you guys have got a great supply.
Oh, yeah. You know, the things like Jetboil, Mountain House, Peak Refuel, all those freeze-dried meals and stuff like that. Good selection of all of that. I think we carry every one of the Mountain House flavors that are available. And then on the Jetboils, you know, make sure you got, you know, plenty of fuel to go with it. You know, that's one thing that guy kind of forgets. You know, well, I still got a can. Well, maybe that can's not quite as full as you think. So, yeah, make sure that you've got all that kind of stuff. Your life straws, your water purifiers. Maybe you're just using iodine tablets, water storage, that kind of stuff. We've got it, and now's the time to prep for it.
And if you're heading back for an elk hunt or deer hunts, you got to have those game bags. And always a good idea to just stock up on a big old supply of those, too.
Yeah, we got a really good selection of game bags, and it seems like really a kind of a minute kind of item that you throw in a pack. You know, I mean, I used to just run those ones that kind of looked like lightweight tube socks that you just kind of rolled over the top of your animal, but I've kind of gone to some nicer, heavier yet lightweight bags, and they're reusable. So at the end of the season, I just throw them in a bleach solution, throw them in the washer, and clean them up, and I got a reusable bag for each season. So you know, maybe you've been just using cheap bags, but you know, maybe you can save yourself a little bit by buying some, you know, higher quality, better investment ones.
Well, get out here and check them out at Rocky Mountain Discount Sports. All your hunting needs, and we still got fishing going on. We're going to talk in a little bit. You guys wrapped up the walleye stampede, but, I mean, fishing's just as strong now as it was at the beginning of the summer.
Like I said, there's just way too much going on this time of year. I mean, it's a great, we're starting to get some cooler weather, and it's actually enjoyable being out there. You're not getting the sun beating down on you as bad, and the season's going to be here, and we might as well keep fishing until we can't.
Yeah, so come on in and check it out, Rocky Mountain Discount Sports.
It's Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.
And we're back at what may be the busiest store in the entire Casper region right now, because everybody's getting jammed up for hunting seasons. There's already guys that are out. Archery season is kicking off with September 1st for a lot of the elk. Mm-hmm. The antelope is already archery season, and fishing has been strong this year. I feel like in the past we've maybe had some more down times of fishing where it was really slow at parts, but this year it just seems like it's been pretty cranking the whole time.
Yeah, depending on where you're at in the state and what type of fishing you're doing, I think, we've talked that, the guys on the river have been catching fish, but still kind of struggling with, high water temperatures, water flow, maybe some sediment buildup. The reservoir guys, man, it's been pretty good. Sometimes we're going to see like areas like Pathfinder with the new lake effect, with that water being low last year, and now we've got some new growth on the shorelines that's kind of good at creating some good minnow habitat and bug habitat. And I think Pathfinder, especially into this year and going into next year, is going to be fantastic. But even reservoirs like Glendo just been solid all year long. So yeah, it's been a great season.
And speaking of Pathfinder, I think today is the day they're wrapping up the Walleye League at Pathfinder. So that's kind of, putting the close on the end of the summer, and you guys just finished up the Walleye Stampede.
Yep. Our last tournament was last weekend down at Boysen Reservoir, and it was a unique bite. I got the opportunity to pre-fish with one angler and kind of see how they dissect the lake and what their thoughts were on how they how they're going to attack the actual tournament. And then during the event, we had an angler that his partner couldn't make it, missed a plane flight coming into town.
Oh no!
And so I jumped in the boat and just sat in the back of the boat and watched him fish and kind of watched his thought process on how long he's going to stay in a spot, where he's going to start, what presentation he's going to use, and that was a kind of a cool experience. So we wrapped that up. We had some winners out of Colorado, Greg Fritz and Rob Sorensen. They've been fishing together for 30 years. Wow. And they just put it to the guys. They actually, the second place team was only 13 hundredths away.
Wow.
So it was kind of a nail biter there, but it was just a cool experience. Most of the guys were that were doing well were pulling cranks. The first day they were pulling them pretty shallow, 7 foot on the south end of the lake. And then big rainstorm, big storm came in on Saturday night. It blew pretty good and dumped a lot of rain, kind of muddied up that south end. And the first place team that had been down further south and in some shallower water started focusing on some deeper water in that 20 to 25 foot range, pulling the same baits that he was pulling shallow, but just kind of worked an area that was kind of up in front of the mud line of where that water had been coming in, and they were able to get it done.
Wow. So, and looking at a lot of the numbers after you released them when the tournament was finished, were you surprised at the numbers? Were they a little lower than you thought they would have been?
In the past, we've got so many good anglers on the water that we usually have somebody that finds some big fish, somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I did talk to a couple guys. The guys that were pulling crankbaits, they found that pulling them at a faster speed actually was triggering that bite a little bit better. So people were catching plenty of fish. It is a catch and release tournament. They actually catch them, take a photo on a hog trough that we supply, and they get immediately released. So we had zero mortality in that derby. But I did talk to some guys. Typically we'll pull crankbaits anywhere from like 1.8 miles to, let's say, as much as 2.5. Well, I was talking to guys that were pulling crankbaits at 3 to 4 miles an hour.
Wow.
And some guys were pulling them super shallow. Some guys were pulling them deep. The guys that were pulling them fairly shallow, I talked to one team that lost a couple big fish, like 30-inch plus fish, at the boat or on the way in, being reeled in. Yeah, there seems like there's still a good, plentiful amount of big fish in there. They weren't concentrated into one area, and which we have seen in previous years. So it was cool. There was, quite a few guys that were, pitching jigs and worms. There's other guys that were pitching jig and wraps. There was guys still trying to catch them on plastics. A lot of guys pulling worm harnesses and slow death hooks. So just about every presentation. In fact, talked to one guy. He's kind of out of that Lander area. Him and his boy were fishing, and they stopped to have lunch, and they kind of stopped on top of a hump out there. And his son threw a slip bobber out in 40 foot of water. And while he's eating a sandwich, all of a sudden his bobber goes down in 40 foot of water, and they caught 3 of their keepers on slip bobbers in deep water.
Eating lunch.
Yeah. So I guess that tells you, instead of spending all this time fishing, maybe you got to take time to enjoy your lunch.
That's right. Wait, we had talked that Boyson was a little bit different this year because of the water levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was really high, and then it was at 100%.
Right.
Do you think that's part of the reason the bite was a little different this year?
Well, the water dropped a little bit in the weeks, leading up to the event, but they just had a lot of rain and a lot of wind, and so especially when you have a reservoir that's got some shallow bays and stuff. And then the south end of the lake is where the water comes in, coming across that causeway. And then you got Badwater Creek, Poison Creek, you got 5 Mile Creek. I think there's a Muddy Creek. I mean, all those little tributaries are dumping water in every time that there's a rainstorm, and it's just washing more mud and dirt into that reservoir. So I think the water clarity, water color, there wasn't this year. There doesn't seem to be as many weeds in that reservoir, and weeds. We've always talked about just fishing structure, and those weeds are good structure. And where we did find weeds, there were a lot of dead weeds. Like there was last year's weeds that just were still in the water, but not really producing any new growth, and they're not real conducive for a lot of the bug hatches. And so normally this time of year we get over there and there's a mayfly hatch, or there's just whatever those flying beetles are and that kind of stuff. We really didn't see any of the bugs. And to me, when the bug hatch is good, the fishing's good.
Right.
And normally then that's when I can, run a slow death hook and a worm, because it seems like that worm presentation is really good once there's a good bug bite. So guys were doing, it was crazy. There was the forage that we saw. I mean, there was minnows everywhere. Guys would be running planer boards, and the minnows were jumping out in front of the planer boards. And just, I watched, all of a sudden I was fishing along the shoreline, and all of a sudden the whole surface just explodes with minnows, probably like a 10-foot wide radius. And all of a sudden I see a trout come out of the water.
Oh.
So you got trout just chasing those minnows. And so that was kind of neat. Pretty small minnows. They were probably only like an inch and a half long. But yeah, it was a great tournament. And, every reservoir, just fishes differently based on the conditions you're thrown at.
So we've talked throughout the year. Walleye and the Walleye Unlimited Club here in Casper has really made a push to help out Game and Fish with hatching some of the walleye. And I saw that they just released a whole bunch up in Keyhole to really add to the environment there. So I think things are really kind of looking in the right direction for that.
Yeah, I think Game and Fish is still working on funding to actually build an actual facility out there at Spees to do some warm water production out there. And so ultimately the Game and Fish is really concerned about the AIS, the aquatic invasive species. We don't want those zebra mussels or quagga mussels or anything else coming into the state. And anytime that we transport trout from North Dakota or walleyes from like North or South Dakota, which we generally trade trout eggs for. Anytime we're bringing that water in, and especially when we're dealing with smaller fish where they have to be sorted and identified, there's always that chance and that risk. So being able to support their efforts with some warm water hatchery stuff is awesome, and the Walleye Club, that's really why we're involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you and I went out and we toured it and got to see it in action, and it's awesome to see that that can be done right here, and really replenish the reservoirs that we have in the state with walleye.
Yeah, and using the resources that they already have out there at Spee's Fish Hatchery. They were telling us that the water coming out of the ground that they're coming out of their wells is the right temperature really to help with the incubation or whatever the growth of these fish. And whatever other waters they need, if they need warmer water, they can use a byproduct of what they're using for the fish runs and that kind of stuff. So it's a great program. I mean, I think Game and Fish is on the right track, and I really hope that they get the funding that they need to kind of move forward with that project. And the Walleye Club will certainly continue to be involved, through our fundraising efforts to help supply larva tanks and whatever else Game and Fish needs for that program.
Which any kind of fishing expo or anything, you guys are always involved there too, giving kids fishing poles. So really contributing to the future of fishing in Wyoming.
Yeah, it's just one way that we can help, right? I mean, like when we do the Yesness ponds, or we do the little pond over in Wright, or we got a school that has a program that they're trying to take kids out. We almost always have fishing poles available to help with those programs, and we do that through our fundraising efforts with like the walleye banquet that we do, and that's usually like in March. So without the support of the community, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do projects like that. This year, we also bought 200 life jackets for the life jacket loaner program, and so it's good to be involved with a club that actually raises money. It's all volunteer based, and 100% of the money stays in Wyoming.
It's a great deal, and it just shows how walleye fishing is really becoming a premier fishing category in Wyoming, and it's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, and I've had the opportunity to fish all over the country, and some big bodies of water, some smaller bodies of water, and it's great to be able to go to Canada for the experience of maybe going to an outpost, or just seeing some different species, smallmouth bass or big lakers, or maybe big pike. But pound for pound, our Game and Fish has done a great job with keeping our fisheries, our catch rates, and our pretty liberal limits, really, to keep these fisheries in good shape. So
it's top notch here in Wyoming, whether it's hunting, fishing, getting outdoors. So take advantage of it.
We're loving every day of it.
Every day of it.
Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors with Drew Kirby. If you have a question, want to make a comment, or have an idea for a show topic, message us on the My Country mobile app. Wyoming Hookin and Huntin Outdoors.